I'm very happy today. I have Simon with me who will co-present this webinar. Simon, do you want to say some words about you?
Yeah, thanks you, John. First of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm a product owner and at GVB, Gebäudeversicherung Bern, and I'm responsible for all the web applications.
Thank you very much. On my side, I'm Jonathan Bertin. I'm living in Switzerland. I'm currently in our headquarters in Switzerland, headquarters of the Swiss subsidiaries. Our headquarters is in Spain. I will talk about that a little bit after. I'm leading the consulting pre-sales team. And today with Simon, we are happy to talk about content to conversion and actually the strategy that Simon with GVB built to publish content in a smart way as a Swiss insurer. And you will talk a bit more about GVB afterwards, but how a very local company could reach national, let's say, it's national-wide communication so far. I mean, everyone in Switzerland knows you and your blog, so that's a very cool story. Without further ado, I have to go through a very short commercial break. Unfortunately, you're not on YouTube. You cannot click the skip button, but I promise I will be very, very short. As I said, we are VASS, 26 countries with some of our experts operating. We are more than 5,000 around the world. We did some money, but our management and our vision is way bigger because we expect to reach the billion within the next years with expanding our numbers of professionals all around, and so far 25 years of experience. What we do, specific architecture and projects, some cloud and cybersecurity topics, digital experiences, data and AI, this is very, very trendy, and enterprise solution like SAP and so on and so forth. And if I deep dive on today's discussion, we are in the digital experience line of business, which means customer experience, what you know and what Simon is doing, for example, with Gebäudeversicherung Bern, it's like serving end customer and end users. We also have employee experience. This is like intranet, for example, shopping experiences, e-commerce, and last but not least, everything regarding brand, from the very starting point of the brand experience, the design, but also the nurturing part and all the things related to marketing technologies like marketing automation, Adobe Analytics, personalization, A/B testing, and so on and so forth. And today, as I said, I'm in Switzerland. Our subsidiaries in Switzerland, we have around 70 employees, or 70, like would say a proper French Swiss speaker, with more than 15 active clients. Here is some of the logos: banking, insurances, retails, and so on and so forth. Some of the very well-known here, we have CSS Insurance on the market. We have, for example, the National Railway for many, many years, one of the biggest websites here in Switzerland. We also work with some department store, with mobile application, e-commerce, and some banking. Most of them are actually on Adobe technologies, and I choose them because this is the topic of today, because Adobe is proposing many, many solutions for digital experiences, and we'll deep dive afterward with Simon in few of them because we are heavily relying on them for this project that we've built with Simon. But I will just take 2 seconds to talk about that. We have a series of webinars. Today is the second one that you can see top right corner. 2 will come. I will talk a little bit more about that later, but it's important to remind you that the first one happened on September 23rd and that the replay is available. It was how to define and create a content strategy. It was with Samuel Schmidt, and I was very, very happy that I could actually manage this webinar with him. And back then he was talking about AI content. Does it still matter to create content? Top left. Bottom left, you can see some graph from companies who try to create a lot of content, but without a proper strategy. And with the age of AI, the numbers of views are dropping. But Samuel really wanted to tell us that it's still right to create content at the moment. But what you have to do is to find the right content, the right format, and the right channel for this content. Otherwise, you will lose impact. And how you do that? Bottom right, you start from the product. You understand who is the user coming on your website. You do your research from top of the funnel to bottom of the funnel to create and find relevant pieces of content. You prioritize, you plan, and with AI and human in the loop, you write this content and you publish it in an effective way. This was a very great webinar. I can only recommend to go back to the replay and look at it. We will share with you the link in the email, in the thank you email afterwards. And now, as I said, once we have our content strategy, we need to create and publish this content. And scaling is very, very essential because especially now with AI, you need to create relevant content and a lot of content to make sure that your brand are mentioned. But how do you manage that as a company? Because it's not because AI is here now that you suddenly have tons of resources available for managing this. So you need to be very, very strategic in your approach to create content and also publish content. And that's what I want to talk about today, first of all, before deep diving in Simon's case. Until now, most of the projects start with a design. Then there is an IT that take the design and find a solution, put a team on that, build a model, and then the content team comes with the content, and somehow we make the content fit and build the experiences that are delivered to the end user. That's most of the project I see on daily basis. And what I would like to start with is that, first of all, when we want to deliver content and we go to the technology, there is two ways of doing it. This is what we have been talking about so far, headless and traditional. And they are very often in opposition or like kind of a fight. Headless is very good for organizations that have a lot of diverse channels and where you need to maintain content at a wide scale or have this create once, publish everywhere, copy approach. On the other way, traditional, it's very good when you have traditional website where the content and the preview is very stable, because here it will give a better user-friendly editorial way of maintaining your content. It's two different approaches. And most of the time, it's only IT considerations that are in the loop when these discussions are happening on how to manage the content. And I would like today to go through this discussion. Is it headless or traditional? And actually, we should not only have a look at that from an IT perspective, but cover three different things. The first one is take the content first. As we saw before, the content is very far in the process, but I would like to get back to this. You should ask yourself, if you're IT, if you're marketing, you should be in the loop and you should ask such question. Can I atomize my content? Is my content structured? Which channel does it go to? Do I reuse my content within my site, within websites, or even other channels? All these kind of questions you need to ask yourself. To clarify this a little bit, to understand what does it mean, I have some examples. Can I atomize my content? What does it mean is that when you have a marketer thinking of a piece of content that must go to the web, can you break it down into smaller parts and clearly identify it? Like I have done it here for one of our clients, I could manage to break down this content into smaller pieces. And what we have realized here, for example, is that all content that are similar to this one can be broken down the same way. There is sometimes content that you cannot break down that way. So that's a very important question you need to ask yourself first. Then, is your content structure? What do I mean by that is that if you have a piece of content, is it structured well enough that you can reuse it across websites? Here I took another one, for example, and we can see that we have this piece of content, bottom right, with this writer. And we can see that this writer is on several pages. And instead of creating this content on each individual pages, we asked ourselves, is it always the same way of creating it? Is it something that I can break down? Yes, it is. I always have a title, I always have a name, I always have a position. So this is a yes, for example, for this question. Such question you should also ask yourself with your different pieces of content. And last but not least, something that you need to understand if you want to go headless or not, for example, is the content you have structured. Is it a content that you need across different front end, across different channels? If it's a yes, that may be an interesting solution. If it's a no, then you should ask yourself the right question, because one of the most or the best benefits of such approach is create once, publish everywhere, as I said earlier, is that you can atomize your content, structure it, and then deliver it to different channels. And that's a very important part when it's about deciding whether you should go headless or not, is starting back with the content and not only about the technology first from an IT perspective. From my point of view, I would not say that at this stage we can already choose if it's headless or traditional. For me, it's still too early. Why? Because content is only the starting point, but you have people working with that content. And to me, when you put content first, you start understanding the right way of choosing how to create and manage content, but you still have to take into consideration the team's need. That's something that we too often forget. And here, once again, I would like to have you asking those questions when you go through this project. And this is what our consultants are doing on a daily basis with our clients. Who creates the content? Who manages content? Do they need autonomy or are they tech savvy? Is there content approval workflows that are complex or not? All these kind of questions you should ask yourself. What I will do now is to show, for example, a very standard workflow of content creation that I could find at any client. There is many people involved. There is many steps involved. And when you step back and have a look at your flow, you will actually realize that there is way more steps than what you have never imagined. And that's why I encourage you to talk with those different people before taking a decision. And once again, I love IT people. I work for an IT company, but too often this is IT driven and we lack this view on what are the needs of the people who will actually work with the tool. And that's something also Simon will talk about a little bit later, that they took the editor needs into the scale before taking decisions. Finally, we will talk a little bit about IT. The governance is very, very important still. You need to understand what you have in place already, how fast you need to go live to take a decision from one kind of approach or another one, the freedom you need, if you need to update frequently the front end or if it will stay the same, if you're happy with the API-driven approach. Also, the budget would be a consideration at this stage. All these kind of questions you should, of course, ask yourself in order to make a right decision, covering content needs, teams needs, and only at the very end also the governance and the IT landscape. Now that I have covered those three different themes, I want to hand over to Simon. You will probably say a few more words about you again, Simon, because what I've talked about now, this is something, it's kind of a mindset that I want to share with you, that you should approach your project that way. But we have a real example of how we collaborate with Simon and how we manage such success. So Simon, stage is yours. I will change slides for you, of course. If I'm too slow, please let me know.
Thanks, John, and thanks for having me again. Yeah, like I said, I'm responsible at GVB for all the web applications and web projects, and we are organized in a somehow safe-based framework, so scaled agile framework. We work in different continuous delivery teams, and me myself, I'm responsible for the delivery team that is called Customer Experience, who owns all the service channels and websites. And yeah, maybe a few words about GVB, Gebäudeversicherung Bern. There are maybe some people in the audience that don't really know this market or how this works in Switzerland. So it's important to know in Switzerland, like in most of the cantons, not in all of them, but in most of them, having a building insurance is actually mandatory. And the basic Gebäudeversicherung in Switzerland is structured pretty simple. And it's just one company that operates within the mandate of the canton, of the according canton, and that's it. At GVB and Bern, things are slightly different. Our company is actually a group that consists of 3 different subsidiaries. So besides the mandatory building insurance, we have optional supplementary insurance coverages that are optional, of course. And for instance, for any type of water damages that are not caused by a natural event, any technical damages, earthquakes, or damages at your solar system. And the 3rd subsidiary is besides the core business, insurance business, is the GVB services. And from there, we provide different kinds of services, additional services like weather alarm, like one of the most famous weather apps in Switzerland, obviously for prevention reasons, but we also provide and maintain the portal, the advisory portal, House Info. It's like one of the most famous advisory platforms for homeowners with any types of good content around your real estate and house. My GVB, the customer portal, and we also do different types of service innovation. So lots of topics going on there. Then the second pillar of GVB services is, of course, the infrastructure. We provide the CMS, which is the AEM Classic and EDS. I'll get into it a little bit later. Also analytics and marketing automation. And the last pillar is the fire safety inspection. This business unit makes sure that any technical installation, for instance, for overvoltage protection, is set up correctly and make sure everything works smoothly. So you now have an idea of our group, our company. It's actually a small company, but quite complex, lots of different topics, and also lots of different target groups. And this means lots of different service and communication channels, and also lots of different websites.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. It was also the GVB commercial break now a bit about all the services. I can only recommend working very closely to the professionals here in Switzerland, so you get very good content and very good support from them. But as you mentioned, to manage all of this, what's the total number of websites that you own and manage so far?
You asked me this question prior to this webinar, and I didn't know. And I took a look at our AEM, and I was quite surprised if I counted it right. We have now 17 different tenants on the productional environment, which means 17 different websites, which is quite decent for such a small company. But
with different brands and so on, as I can see.
That's the point. It's different topics, different target groups, and different service channels. So a lot of
I can
websites.
imagine that you still have some in the pipe, by the way. But this we'll see maybe in another webinar next year.
We'll see.
And actually, why do you have all these kind of websites?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you all know this classic sales funnel. It's the same for any website pretty much, but there are different goals, different topics. And I can give you one typical example within our digital ecosystem. So from a point of view of the GVB private insurance, House Info is actually a very important upper funnel platform for creating leads for the GVB private insurance products. So wherever there's relevant content or contextual content to some types of products, we step in with teasers and some lead nurturing activities, and for bringing the user from House Info to the private insurance web page, where they usually do some deep dives, maybe do a premium calculation, then they get a newsletter and stuff. The lead nurturing goes on, and finally, the main goal is to lead into a conversion. Of course, a conversion could be, in the best case, an online conclusion of a new contract, or it could be an order of an offer, or the booking of an appointment with an advisor if there's some further questions. And yeah, once the customer is converted or he has signed up for a new product, of course, it's important to do some retention to keep him in our portfolio. And one of the latest tools that we set up for retention marketing is Hauszeit. It's not only for the GVB private insurance, but for the whole GVB group. It's our magazine for our customers, where we do brand storytelling. And yeah, like it's actually pretty new. We went live in May, if that's right. And yeah, I'll talk about the journey we went through from the beginning. So like a year ago or beginning of 2025, we actually asked ourselves the question, yeah, how we can launch a modern digital experience, fast, cost efficient within this ecosystem. And we also had like a pretty clear requirement from our communication department. They wanted to launch this new magazine online. There was already a print version, but they want to go online. And yeah, the question was, how can we do it? Because there was some restrictions or some limited time and also money budget, was some constraints. And yeah, it became quickly clear that within the existing AEM infrastructure, this wouldn't be possible. This would take way too long and would be way too expensive. So we had to dig a little bit to find other options. The first option that popped up was a proposal also from the communication department. They said, okay, anyway, we don't want to do it with AEM. It's too heavyweight and yeah, it takes too long. And let's do this with WordPress. We already have experience. It's set up pretty quickly. We are very flexible and agile with it. Let's go for it. Yeah, unfortunately, I had to say as a gatekeeper also to the IT, and I had to say no, because this is not what our IT governance rule says. We have been there already. I mean, we had not that many websites, but also a very high number of websites, but any websites with a different CMS, with a different team, everything was in silos. And now finally we ended up having one single platform for all the websites. And of course we didn't want to quit this idea just for convenience reasons. So this was no option. And then we took a closer look at the AEM environment. There we would have had an option actually, which is AEM headless or content fragments. This was already set up. It's already within our contract. Any component was available for it. We would have made it on budget and on time. So the development process would be pretty lean, since with headless, you can completely decouple the front-end part from the back-end part. But unfortunately, when we presented the solution, it quickly became clear that from a perspective of our communication department and also from the authors, it's just not user-friendly. So it's not a great editorial experience, since you have to switch between the view, like a rather technical view with different fields and tables. And anytime you publish a new page, then you have to switch to the publish area, and it's just not user-friendly. So this, was no option neither.
I really love the way that you've been through all the steps and the themes I was talking about a little bit earlier, but it seems that here you almost reached a dead end.
Yeah. The dead end. Yeah, it was. We were almost a little bit stuck. I was like at some point. Okay, I already promised we will find a solution with Adobe, since this is not the cheapest version, and this is a big framework, and we would find a solution. I was sure, but I didn't know what kind of solution. Fortunately, our partner VASS came up with the idea, or with the proposal rather. Let's do this with a new technology from Adobe, which is called Adobe Edge Delivery Services, or EDS. At that point, I already was aware of that term. I heard it a couple of times, but yeah, still I was a little bit skeptical since, as you may know, I mean, Adobe launches new products and system and technologies like more or less on a daily basis. And oftentimes the maturity of those new products, they're just simply not there yet. So I was a little bit skeptical. But then after some deep dives with VASS and even a POC, actually, to be honest, this become pretty quickly, this become quite of a no-brainer for me. Yeah, I mean, this is actually all the requirements we set up. So we wanted to have maximum design freedom. ES gives us design freedom since it's front-end driven. We want to have fast development cycles. This is also possible since the code bases are separate. We want to have a very cost-effective solution. This was also given by EDS. We wanted to have a fast, what you see is what you get. So teams wanted to be able to publish fast. This was also check. And of course, we didn't want to train the whole authors, the whole team. We want to have a solution that is intuitive. This is also fulfilled. And last but not least, of course, we also didn't want to spend more money on license fees that we've already spent. And yeah, we had to do a little upgrade, but this was just, yeah, it was quite affordable. It wasn't a big deal. So also here it's checked. And these days, the EDS technology is even included in the latest contracts of AM Cloud.
So finally, you found a way to digitalize this magazine.
Absolutely. But yeah, let's leave the technical talk and let's see how it works. And for that, absolutely. I hand over to you, John, for a little demo.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to take that risk live with all the participants on the webinar. I will actually go and edit this page because this is the promise that we came with, is to have something that is front-end driven, but also that offer the best, what you see is what you get experience to the author. Because the promise was no time spent on the training. And to show that, we have here, for example, the homepage of the website. And if I open the editor that is named Universal Editor, I can see that I find the very same content. And to update it, it's so simple. You just have to click here. For example, let's say we are talking about prevention or whatever. I choose German as a language. We don't have it in English. But let's say like flooding forecasts. I could immediately see the changes coming on the website, for example, and find, for example, let's say another image. I could take something from my library of assets here. And then if I open my page and I refresh, I can see immediately that it's published just by changing the content straight from the page, which is here. You cannot make it any simple. That's just how it is, thanks to this approach with the WYSIWYG and content edition directly in the page. And that's what we did for every single pages. We built the blocks that will allow the user to actually change the content. If I go here, for example, to a blog post, I can take any section. I can see in my content tree in this section, my image text teaser, I can just duplicate it. I would get my content here. For example, I can just, as I did before, change the layout, change the picture, whatever. So it's very easy, and you do not need any specific onboarded to use such tools, because you just change content. Hello, dear webinar audience. You just change it right away like this. So that's the universal editor approach. And now I will get back to my slides, because you said that the project is live for 3 months, almost, even a bit more. This means that you already have some results, right?
Yes, let's talk facts and figures for a second. Yeah, with this EDS technology.
I'm just trying to find, because I have this overlay, you know, with the people and so on and so forth. Here we are back to the full screen. So I hand over to you again. As I was
All
saying.
right. Yeah, just the most important facts and figures. Yeah, at the end of the day, with the CDS technology, we were able to be on the market 30% faster compared to other web projects we did with the classical AEM approach. And of course, with a faster go-to-market, we could also save some money, also by 30%. And also, this what you already mentioned, John, and we didn't really have to do change management or a lot of training for the people. So since as you just saw, I mean, the universal editor there is very intuitive, and all the others, they just yeah. When we launched it, when we deployed it, they just stick to the content management and just went on with creating content and creating and publishing content. So this was really straightforward.
Mhm.
And last but not least, this is something we didn't really expect, to be honest, and it wasn't a basic requirement, but the performance was way better. I'll show you now the ultimate KPIs regarding the performance, the Lighthouse score, which is now by 98 points. And this is no fake, I promise. And this is, I really had to double check it. I couldn't believe it at first. So this is really the cherry on the cake. This was no requirement, as I said, prior to this project. But at the end of the day, we have now a super performant, fast, lightweight website, which is very fun to navigate on. And also for the, yeah, like I already said, for the authors, most importantly, it's very, it feels very, 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 very good and very intuitive to yeah, to manage all the content on it. So pretty happy about this result.
We are happy too, because yeah, we can invite you to webinar and you can spread the word of how cool this kind of project can be. So thank you very much, Simon. I will now continue a little bit more, talk about what is EDS very, very quickly. I don't want to deep dive into specific technical details here. What's important to keep in mind that it's a composable approach. As we saw before, it's front-end oriented, but still you can get some WYSIWYG or whatever opportunities that you usually have with traditional CMS approaches. And this is because they actually compose all the different elements from the code, from the assets, from the content on a specific layer that is then delivered to your end user. And something I would like to deep dive a little bit more here is that you can see bottom right that there is several things in this content approach. Like you can see the Google Doc or the Word document template. Why? Is because actually Adobe thought of what the people are struggling the most when it's about handling digital content at the moment. And they came with two approaches. The one we saw before, the universal editor, where the author still want to work on the website directly and edit the content directly. But they also thought of a second approach, where actually, if you think of it from the content, when you think of a piece of content that you will publish, until the moment it goes to your website, most of the time there is a Word document or Google Doc that is sent from user 1 to user B to user C, etc., etc. And once this is done, then you have someone that is copy-pasting content to your CMS. And they thought, why if we could actually avoid that? So why if a workflow like this, where the last steps are actually copy-pasting content from a Word document to a CMS, could be removed? We could save for companies 30 minutes to sometimes 1 hour per page in copy paste, structuring, and so on and so forth. And this is an approach that I really, really love, because then you can give back the power to the users to actually work on tasks that will add value, like quality of the content, making sure that the brand is well mentioned, that the content fits what the market is expecting, and not spending time on those copy paste. So it's reinvesting the time on what matters. without further ado, because it sounds like a dream, but actually it works, we have developed a website here that will work only with that will generate web pages based on Word documents. I will once again do another demo. I take a lot of risks today. If I go to this other Google Chrome here, you can see that I have a Google Drive. But before jumping into Google Drive, I will open this page, for example, let's say the home page. This is a website. Everything all right so far. But what we can see is that here I have a specific plugin that recognizes that this is a website that I can edit. And if I click on edit, it will show what's behind, where the content is. And now I'm on the Google Doc. So this means that all the content of this page is actually handled with a Google Doc. And to prove that it's correct, I will, for example, add a testimonial here. I will just copy this one and, for example, take a nice picture of myself. If I have one somewhere, yeah, of course, EDS demo, I'm so organized. It's like it was planned for today. And I drop it. And now I get back to the preview of the page. If I scroll down again through the testimonials, I can see that my testimonial has been added to the website just by updating the content of a Word document. So of course, this is a very simple one, but I could go to the blog. And what I would do in such project, I would create a template that would give to my editor to actually work on this content. Let's say now I make a copy, new blog post 2025, create a copy. The doc is created. Hello, webinar. And if now I want to preview it, you can see that this Word document will immediately go to our preview server and generate a web page based on the content of this document. So if now I just add here, Lorem Ipsum, and I go again back, this is just how simple content management and content publication has become with such new technologies. So if I get back and I reload, I can see that my Lorem Ipsum is here now, and I can just publish my page if I want to make it available to everyone. So getting back to the presentation, this is what I meant by new way of actually publishing content and finding the right fit for your company. I started talking about AI and human in the loop. We even think that we can go even further. Samuel, in the previous webinar, once again, we'll share the link with you later on. He shows how to find hundreds of ideas of content, but how can you make this happen? Is by using, in a very smart way, the AI to accelerate the work that we need to do anyway, like the research and those kind of things, and just putting the human in the loop to actually put something that's add value to your content that is tailored to your brand. So this is, for example, some AI agent workflows that we have built to generate content at scale. And here, there is something that you keep in mind all the time is that you have, for example, this cross-border article that has been generated automatically. So all the research has been done, but you need, as an expert, as a marketer, to come in, find your uniqueness in this spin-off of content at the right call to action, at the right place. You need to add testimonials, you need to add KPI, and so on and so forth. You need to put some branded content in this. But the time you've spent back then creating, doing those research or paying for external consultant to actually come with this foundation for an article, you can now automate and save a lot of time and make sure that your brand will be present online. So I hope you got it. It's about, as we said before, the right content that is published properly with the right team and the right publication method. And once you have answered all these questions and found the right technology, you can be really efficient and make sure that you will survive in the age of AI, I would say, and make sure that your content is relevant for the users. Like GVB, you can be very faster in creating new websites. You can save 100 of hours using the document-based authoring, and you can create content that are impactful, faster with the human-in-the-loop AI flows. All these kind of things we are very, very proud of. And we are not the only one innovating. As I said, we are working closely to Adobe. There is topics like the site optimizer, the new LLM optimizer. By the way, Simon, maybe I talked about that to you. And if there is anyone else in the room, happy to engage with you. Adobe has launched a week ago LLM optimizer that's helping you understanding how your brand visibility works in LLM. So how much your brand is mentioned in any LLM or prompt that are sent by the user. That's a very interesting tool. And you have 200 prompts for free if you're an Adobe Experience Manager as a cloud service client. So please use it, reach out to us. Don't waste prompts by just entering random stuff. Every prompt you will send, you will lose, let's say, the money of the value of the prompt. We'd be super happy to help you with that, but you have it for free. LLM.now, go to that. That's a very cool tool that is coming on the market. And to close this, because we promised 45 minutes, it's 43. Afterward, we'll have some Q&A. Our webinar series about creating content, publishing content, and optimizing content. The one about the content strategy has happened last month. Please have a look at the replay. Today, you attend the one about the way of publishing this content. And I said that EDS could be a very good fit for many use cases. And if you're interested into that, next month on the 20th of November, our tech guys will actually explain how Adobe Edge Delivery Services is implemented from a technical point of view. So feel free to forward the link to your IT guys if they want to understand more or if they are skeptical. And last but not least, in December, we will have our colleague Sofiane talking about growth and how to repurpose or make sure that you get the most and you squeeze your content to actually find some ROIs. If you have any request, struggle with your content, your publication, your CMS, the alignment with the marketing and so on and so forth, if you're like Simon at some point in the deadhead, or maybe if you're not, I'm happy to talk to you. Please contact us. We'd be very, very happy to support you with all these kind of approaches. It was me, Jonathan, and Simon presenting. Thank you very much for your time. Please stay tuned. We'll have now the 15 minutes for the Q&A for those who want to stay with us. And anyway, we'll send you a thank you email and the link to the next webinar. Thank you very much. Mar, I think you're around for the questions.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this session, team. Let's kick off the Q&A round. I'm going to ask you first, what was the turning point that made GVB move from traditional content publishing to a smarter and more scalable model?
Yeah, so actually the turning point was the requirement from the communication department who wanted to launch this house site, this new magazine. And they wanted to do it with a completely new CI/CD, new design, and they had a limited budget, and also they wanted to, of course, to launch it on time. And we've been discussing such possibilities for quite some time. Unfortunately, until EDS, we couldn't really provide a very good solution within our AM framework. And I'm very glad that we now could provide now a solution for those needs, especially internally for the marketers and the communication responsibles.
Exactly, and I really like how you approach that with a mindset. Let's publish, learn, and grow continuously, and also like aligning the content, the people from a marketing point of view and the IT point of view. That's something that we do not see all the time, but it brings scalability in the end.
Exactly.
So how did you decide that Adobe Edge Delivery Service was the right choice and not just another tech trend?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, at the beginning, I was a little bit skeptical. Here, another new Adobe product, big promise. Is it major enough or not? But then, yeah, I mean, it was the only option, actually the last option we could meet to stay within this Adobe framework. And yeah, after a workshop and the POC, when I saw the results, when we discussed it, yeah, then, like I said, it was quite a no-brainer from there.
Yeah, and the beauty of it, I would say, is that in the end, it came without any extra cost, no extra complexity. It even simplified the content contribution, and it boosted performance.
Exactly.
100%, Sim. So what tangible results did GVB achieve after implementing the new publishing model, and how fast did you see the impact?
Yeah, so first and foremost, the most important thing was we could keep our promise to the communication department. So we delivered on time and on budget, like we said, we launched this new website within 4 months. And at the end, we could also enable the team to save time and money also in the editing process. And also, we didn't have to train the whole editor crew, since the solution is very intuitive. So,
and I have to say also, now comparing with many other projects, time to market dropped by 30%. We have better analytics and technical SEO topics when you look at the performance, and this without changing the core existing AM infrastructure.
yeah.
So how did you align marketing and IT teams to make all these transformations successful?
I quickly mentioned it. This came out pretty naturally, since we work in a SAFe-based framework. So scaled agile framework. We work within different delivery teams, mostly with the Scrum methodology. And so, like, as a PO of a delivery team, you're like the intermediary between business and IT already. So yeah, there's no way to, or it's not a good idea. It doesn't make sense to create new silos and not talking to the IT architectures, for instance, since there's also some stage gate processes. So before launching a new product or set up a new technology, and this needs to be discussed in our architecture board. So you are naturally aligned with the IT. And I think also for other frameworks, organizational frameworks, I think there's no other way around it. So at the end of the day, if you wanted to have something sustainable, marketing and IT needs to be aligned and work together.
At VASS, that's exactly what we always promote and enable, is to have this approach where every team wins. You need to set joint goals, and then only you finally move at the same pace and make sure that everyone is happy and that the business gets benefits out of it.
So last but not least, if you had to give one piece of advice to any company struggling to scale their content strategy today, what would it be?
Contact VASS. I'm sorry, you could go ahead.
No problem. I know you, John. Yeah, one advice. Yeah, I think one big success factor is actually to have like one platform or one technical framework where everything is set up, because there's so much synergy you can take. And then you should have like a clear vision where you want to go with your websites and your service channels. And then, but also have the courage to go step by step. You don't have to do everything at once. You can take an incremental approach, and yeah, move step by step towards the vision.
Yeah, nothing to add on that. If you have your teams aligned with a goal and you sync and move together, then you will find growth for sure.
So that was all, team. Thank you so much for your answers.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah. We'll give maybe a few seconds to the chat if there is any other question coming. Otherwise, we'll be able to wrap up. So how did you find it, Simon? Happy with the flow and your presentation so far?
Yeah, I enjoyed it as always with you, John, since it's not the first time we can present together. And yeah, for me also, it was a very interesting project so far. And I'm happy to be able to share my experience that we've had. So thanks again for having me. Yeah,
you're welcome. Thank you very much. I do not see any last question coming to the chat. Of course, as I said earlier, you will get the thank you email for participating. For the people who did not attend and you're watching now the replay, thank you very much for being on the replay. And I actually got a very last minute question regarding this question. That's totally correct. So I will read it. The license cost, we mentioned that you got cost reduction due to different license. And the question is, this depends on the traffic on the website. Yes, with the cloud, it's mostly related to the traffic on your website. But the overall reduction mainly came because the way the website is implemented, so it's not really on the license part, but on the TCO, the total cost of the implementation overall, is that it's way more front-end driven and less back-end driven. This means that we can develop faster, and by faster development means less effort. So overall, the cost of the project is less important than the traditional approaches. Doesn't mean that the traditional approaches do not work anymore. It has its specific use cases, but in the case of Simon, we could definitely go for cheaper and a faster way with that approach. So I think now we are set. So yeah, thank you again, everyone. Thanks, Simon, for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon if you're here in Europe with us. Good morning if you're from the other way to the west side of the world, or good evening if you're in Asia. I don't know from where you're following us. I was very happy hosting this, and I wish you a great end of the day. Bye.
Bye-bye.